What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Bluebird Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So I want to talk about this, man. Obviously, undefeated WBO welterweight superstar boxer Terence Crawford defeated Kavaluskas, the Mean Machine, this past Saturday night via 9th round knockout. It was a hard-fought fight. Terence Crawford took some big hits, some big punishment. He was even knocked down in the 3rd round, but it wasn't counted. If you ask Terence Crawford, he's going to say he wasn't knocked down. But guys like Andre Ward, Tim Bradley, myself, anybody else that watched the fight saw it was a knockdown, no, it was a knockdown. With that said, Terence Crawford doesn't want to be, obviously he's going to feel, embarrassed, to say the least, that he was knocked down by a guy the caliber of Kavaluskas, point blank and period, right? So with that said, Terence Crawford is never going to admit that, he was knocked down, right? Terence Crawford tried his best to big up Kavaluskas, the Mean Machine. He tried his best to make his stock rise, but I want to talk about why these fights are not happening with Terence Crawford and the PBC, because there's an agenda being pushed, towards the PBC and the PBC fighters. And we saw Timothy Bradley go on this rant, claiming that the PBC are a bunch of cowards, and the only real man over there at the PBC is undefeated Olympic bronze medalist, WBC American heavyweight champ, Deontay the Bronze Bomber Wilder. And he's giving Deontay Wilder the credit because he's saying that Deontay Wilder is going to fight Tyson Fury. That's the reason why he's crediting Deontay Wilder. Otherwise, he discredits everybody. So I'm going to debunk the notion that Terence Crawford is claiming that the PBC guys are avoiding him and ducking him and refuse to say his name. Also, that with Timothy Bradley stating that, the only real guy, with heart, the only real man over at the PBC is Deontay Wilder, right? And Deontay Wilder definitely deserves all of that praise. But to say it's Deontay Wilder and Deontay Wilder only solely is false. And I'm going to tell you why right now. Okay? Timothy Bradley and Terence Crawford are completely wrong. And they're completely pushing a certain narrative, to sway the public judgment on Terence Crawford and Top Rank and ESPN in a certain direction. Okay? Now, who is Terence Crawford directly? He after the fight with Kavaluskas, he was asked by the announcer, who do you want to fight next? Terence Crawford went on a rant about he'll fight anybody. The announcer then stopped Terence Crawford and stated to Terence Crawford, yes, but Terence Crawford, you are the boss. He highlighted the boss. You are the boss. You are in control. Who does Terence Crawford want next? And Terence Crawford goes on to say that he's tired of calling these guys out. These guys don't want to fight him. They don't say his name. He's tired of calling them out. He wants all the top guys in the top of the welterweight division on the PBC side or on Top Rank and ESPN side, right? Now, ask yourself this question. Why did Terence Crawford highlight Top Rank and the ESPN side when there's no major welterweights on that side to begin with? So why highlight highlight Top Rank, which you are already a product of, and why highlight ESPN, which you already fight for under their banner and on their network? Why would you highlight them and say that there's fighters over there, you're not avoiding anybody over there as well? There aren't any welterweights at Top Rank or ESPN. This is Terence Crawford just saving face. You understand? And to say that the PBC fighters are avoiding him and won't say his name is completely false, okay? Now, the fight that everybody wants to see, obviously, is himself, Crawford, versus unified welterweight superstar boxer Errol "The Truth" Spence Jr., who holds the WBC and the IBF titles. Obviously, Errol Spence suffered a horrific car accident, and Errol Spence is not in commission. He's out of commission. We know this, right? So he's off the books, right? He's not even in the conversation. Errol Spence and Terence Crawford is not going to happen anytime soon. It's not going to happen. At the very least, it'll happen late 2020, and I mean late 2020. I'm talking December, because Errol Spence is going to have a tune-up. Then he'll coming back just to test the waters and see where he's at. And this is that's just obvious, right? There's nothing to explain there. That's just the obvious. He's going to need a tune-up, right? To see where he was at, to see where he's at. Nobody knows the exact injuries or how severe the injuries are. Truly, nobody knows this, right? Nobody's aware of this. Nobody can say that they know for sure. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, right? So we know that this is not going to happen anytime soon. Errol Spence and Terence Crawford. That's number one. All right, so number two, Shawn Porter and Kenny Porter came out and stated that if they couldn't get the immediate rematch with Errol Spence, then they wanted a fight with Terence Crawford, right? Kenny Porter continues to reiterate these words. Terence Crawford then came out and stated that he will not be forced to fight Shawn Porter. Although Kenny Porter, yes, originally Shawn Porter said that he did not want to fight Terence Crawford next. And I was the one that interviewed Shawn Porter when he brought this up. So I was the first one to talk to Shawn Porter and the first one to break this news and report this news and give this contact with Shawn Porter, saying the relationship with him and Terence Crawford is deep and he does not want to interfere with that until it's absolutely necessary for fight. So Shawn Porter never said he would never fight Terence Crawford. What Shawn Porter said was, I'm going to wait till it's absolutely no other option until Terence Crawford is the last piece of the puzzle for me to be undisputed. I'm going to collect all the belts like Thanos, but because of the relationship I have with Terence Crawford, I'm going to hold that off to the very last option. He says, but sparring with Terence Crawford and knowing Terence Crawford since he's coming up, I always knew we was going to be on the clash for a big fight, for a major fight. I always knew we was going to have to meet at some point in time. So Shawn Porter never stated that he didn't want to fight Terence Crawford. He just said that he wanted to push Terence Crawford to the back of the line because of their friendship, and then have that come to fruition later on down the line when he already collected and already achieved all the other pieces to the puzzle. So for people to continue to say that Shawn Porter never said that he didn't want to fight Terence Crawford is completely false. That's not what he said. Okay, and that was taken out of context. Okay, Terence Crawford now responds to Kenny Porter and Shawn Porter's call out of him and say that he is not going to fight Terence Crawford, Shawn Porter, unless he is absolutely sits in a room with Shawn Porter. And if he sits in a room with Shawn Porter and Shawn Porter himself come to an agreement, the two of them, they come to an agreement in the room, no promoters, no managers, no teams, just the two of them, and say that this is the best thing for them, then that's when he'll do it. He's not going to be forced into fighting Shawn Porter. This is what Terence Crawford stated, okay? So that removes Shawn Porter. We're just going to play addition by subtraction, just to debunk the notion that the PBC are avoiding Terence Crawford, okay? So now that removes Errol Spence, obviously, because he's injured. We don't even know when he's coming back, if he come back the same way he left, or if he ever comes back at all, because there's so many conflicting reports. There's some people saying he may not never come back. Some people saying he'll be back February. Some people saying he'll be back late 2020. Nobody knows. Okay, so and we know the obvious. He suffered a horrific accident. He's not ducking or dodging anybody. He just was in an unfortunate situation. So that removes Errol Spence, and now we remove Shawn Porter due to Terence Crawford's own admission, right? Terence Crawford removed Shawn Porter. Al Heyman and the PBC didn't remove Shawn Porter. Terence Crawford removed Shawn Porter, okay? Now, Danny Garcia, and we're just going to work at the top of the welterweight. Now, let's go to Danny Garcia. Danny Garcia defeated Amir Khan years ago, okay? And it's been on the up since defeating Amir Khan. Danny Garcia was a cherry pick going wrong for Amir Khan after Amir Khan lost to Lamont Peterson. Amir Khan was on the verge of fighting Floyd Mayweather. He fought Lamont Peterson. After Lamont Peterson, Amir Khan was going to get the Floyd Mayweather fight. Amir Khan fought Lamont Peterson, then lost to Lamont Peterson. After he lost to Lamont Peterson, Amir Khan then went on to fight Danny Garcia, who was on a young, hungry, up-and-coming star. He wasn't a superstar. He wasn't any of those things, right? But he was seen with slow feet and slow hands, and Amir Khan could capitalize and to be a showcase fight for Amir Khan in a comeback victory after losing to Lamont Peterson, and which people thought was a controversial loss because it was a backyard win for Lamont Peterson, right? Amir Khan got in the ring with Danny Garcia and got knocked out. Danny Garcia went on to fight on the undercard co-main event on Floyd Mayweather's fight with Canelo Alvarez, I believe it was. And he fought Lucas Matisse, high-profile fights. He's been on the up and up since then. He defeated Lamont Peterson. He defeated Lucas Matisse. He became unified at 140. Danny Garcia's career went on up. He was undefeated until he lost to Keith Thurman, which he was a 2-division champion at that point in time. He became a welterweight champion and a 140-pound junior welterweight champion, unified at 140. Okay? So Danny Garcia's career has been going up as Amir Khan's career had plateaued and then started going downwards. So the biggest star in this situation, the higher profile name, is Danny Garcia by far. Danny Garcia was offered $3 million according to Bob Arum. This is not according to Blue Blood. Okay, this is not according to Blue. These are Bob Arum, who is the CEO of Top Rank. Okay, Bob Arum said that they offered Danny Garcia $3 million. They offered Amir Khan $7 million. Amir Khan got paid $7 million. So why would Danny Garcia accept the $3 million when and this is a lowball offer? Now, granted, I know people are going to say, well, how would Danny Garcia know? Because they offered Khan that after they offered Danny Garcia. Regardless, they were lowballing Danny Garcia. He felt like his worth was more than $3 million. They went away from the negotiation tables, and then they offered Amir Khan $7 million. Not to mention, Bob Arum said that he did not even want to negotiate with Al Heyman, who is the advisor and manager for the PBC fighters, right? He did not want to negotiate with Al Heyman because for a Danny Garcia fight because Danny Garcia wasn't worth it. He also, in the same breath, said that he did not want to negotiate with Shawn Porter with Al Heyman for Shawn Porter because Shawn Porter was by far not worth it. He said they're not good fighters. They don't bring in money. He did not want to negotiate with Al Heyman for those fights. Okay, so he also stated that they're not worth it, and the only way he wanted to negotiate with Al Heyman was for one guy and one guy only, and that was Errol Spence. So there we have it. Let's remove Danny Garcia. Had nothing to Danny Garcia. Terence Crawford and his promoter Bob Arum chose not to do business to bring in Danny Garcia. Then Terence Crawford then went in to fight Amir Khan. That's why he fought Amir Khan. Okay. At one point, Terence Crawford was on the verge of fighting Luis Collazo, who was also a PBC fighter. So if you could do business with Al Heyman to fight Luis Collazo, then why can't you do business with Al Heyman to get a major deal and a major fight done for Danny Garcia? Why? Because Bob Arum came out and stated that Danny Garcia wasn't worth it. Let's keep that in mind. So let's remove Danny Garcia now. So we done removed Errol Spence, removed Danny Garcia, removed Shawn Porter. And to none of these guys' issues, right? They aren't the cause for the fights with Terence Crawford not happening. Terence Crawford and Bob Arum are, right? Okay. Now, let's go to Manny Pacquiao, 8th Division Filipino superstar boxer, who was under the same banner as Terence Crawford for years on end and could not land a fight. And his promoter, Bob Arum, came out and stated that he was the one that stood in the way and blocked the Manny Pacquiao-Terence Crawford fight because he did not want to see Manny Pacquiao get hurt. He didn't want to see Terence Crawford hurt Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao is a friend of his. He has a serious love for Manny Pacquiao, a genuine love for Manny Pacquiao. He didn't want to see Manny Pacquiao get hurt. So he was the one that stood in the way of that fight not taking place, not Manny Pacquiao. He blocked Manny Pacquiao from fighting Terence Crawford or from the passing of the torch. But Bob Arum, in the public eye, was pretending that he wanted to have Manny Pacquiao face Terence Crawford in the passing of the torch type of fight. And then he came out and admitted he just didn't want to happen. He didn't want to see that happen. So that removes Manny Pacquiao, right? That's not Manny Pacquiao's fault, is it? That the fight with Terence Crawford didn't happen? Whose fault is that? Again, that's in-house, Terence Crawford. That is in-house. So, Shawn Porter did not want to fight Terence Crawford. He just said he would. and so did Kenny Porter. And you get so many people saying Kenny Porter controls Shawn Porter's career. Okay, if that's the case, Kenny Porter is now stating that they'll fight Terence Crawford. So that means that Shawn Porter will fight Terence Crawford, right? So why isn't that fight coming to fruition? Terence Crawford came out and said he won't be forced to fight Shawn Porter. So guess what? That's another PBC. These are PBC fighters that's off the table due to Terence Crawford and Bob Arum, not anybody else. Okay. Manny Pacquiao off the table, right? Danny Garcia off the table. Errol Spence off the table. Shawn Porter off the table. Now, Mikey Garcia. Now, he recently signed with DAZN and Matchroom. But prior to that, he was under Top Rank banner, and they couldn't get a fight done. Now, to Terence Crawford's defense, Mikey Garcia did come out and state that he didn't like the way he matched up with Terence Crawford's style, so he didn't want to have that fight happen. That's what Mikey Garcia said. So, yes, Mikey Garcia is at fault for not making that fight happen. So I give it to him for Mikey Garcia. Now, we go to Keith Thurman. Another fighter, Bob Arum, top-ranked CEO, and the promoter of Terence Crawford, came out and said that Keith Thurman wasn't a good fighter. All he does is run, and he wasn't worth him paying for a Crawford fight. Okay? That's what he said. But at the same token, Keith Thurman didn't seem overly eager to get in the ring with Terence Crawford. Keith Thurman stated that Terence Crawford had to prove himself. He was too small, so on and so forth. We know this of Keith Thurman. So I can place blame on both for that fight not happening with Keith Thurman. They never began to negotiate. They never gave Keith Thurman an offer that to get him up out of the cubby hole, to bring him to the light, to force him to fight. They never even offered him. So it's unknown if Keith Thurman would have taken an offer or not. But it seemed like he wasn't. Now, the ultimate thing. Here's the ultimate thing, and this is where I'm going to close this. Bob Arum came out and stated that there is no money for me to pay Terence Crawford's opponents from the PBC if they're not named Errol Spence. Go do your homework. I'll say this again. Bob Arum stated that there isn't any money. This is when Kell Brook came out. Kell Brook was ringside at Amir Khan Terence Crawford fight. Kell Brook said, give me the opportunity. Now, Kell Brook did also, to Terence Crawford's defense, Kell Brook did contradict himself, because he said he'll come to 147, he'll come to welterweight, and he'll fight Terence Crawford. And then he changed the tune and said he can't make the welterweight limit. So to Terence Crawford's defense, yes, Kell Brook did, contradict himself. But at the same token, before he even contradicted himself, Bob Arum, his promoter, came out and stated that there is no money to pay Kell Brook. There is no money to pay any of these guys. The only money he's willing to pay and do business with Al Heyman for is Errol Spence. Point blank and period. Mic drop. How are the PBC fighters avoiding Terence Crawford? How are the PBC fighters not looking to fight Terence Crawford? In fact, it's Terence Crawford and it's Bob Arum that's being a roadblock and preventing these fights from coming to fruition. So, in fact, it's Terence Crawford who's not having his fight with the PBC. What other PBC fighters is he talking about at this point in time? Yordenis Ugas, Sergey Lipinets, Jaron Ennis? Are those guys who you're talking about? Because you can't be possibly talking about the guys at the top, right? Because those guys at the top were willing to fight you. Errol Spence came out and said, okay, I'll do a 60-40 fight. Terence Crawford said 50-50 or no fight. Errol Spence, I'm going to make lateral moves. I'm fighting Shawn Porter. Give me what I want and I'll fight you, or I'm going to make lateral moves. Regardless of the fact is, here's the thing. Bob Arum is not overly eager to make fights with the PBC, so why do we continue to say the PBC fighters are avoiding Terence Crawford? That is the furthest thing from the truth, and I wanted to debunk that. Now, if they're saying that Errol Spence is avoiding him, that's one thing, and I could debunk that as well. But when you continue to mention the PBC in the whole, that is the false. That is the most furthest thing from the truth, and Terence Crawford needs to stop. He continues to tell people that anybody to listen, that the media switches the story and changes the narrative when it comes to him. But he's not telling the truth when it comes to him dealing with the PBC and the PBC fighters. In fact, Terence Crawford is the one that's switching the agenda and turning the tables and switching what's actually taking place, because he don't want to place blame on Bob Arum's doorstep. That's ultimately what's taking place. Period. But that's all I got for y'all. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue Blood Sports TV. Hey, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed? Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notification. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shouts out to the entire LDBC. Shouts out to new media. Shouts out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. And hopefully all these fights come to fruition, because I truly want to see them. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.